Welcome all to the Phoenix episode of From Dungeons to Starships. Now, the reason why I'm calling this the Phoenix episode is it's a bit of a restart, a bit of a rebirth for the channel itself. What I've been trying to do with the episodes that I've so far put out is to try and find a voice for this channel. Now, some of the things that I've put out, thinking good ideas, haven't really taken stock, and other things have. But I needed to get some more advice. So what I've done, I've over the time that the channel has been in existence, I have been talking to other content creators, and one of the main bits of advice I was given for the channel is to make sure you are doing something you're invested in, something you love, because if you do that and talk about that on the channel, people will understand and people will be able to pick up your genuine enthusiasm for the topic and won't see you as someone who's going through the movement just for some kind of clickbait, or it's just some kind of just to gain followers for another reason. And then if you're successful, and if you're not, then you can hold your hands up and say, well, at least I tried, and I tried my best doing something I enjoyed doing. So that's where we're going to go. So From Dungeons to Starships is now going to be pretty much solely based on the part of the hobby that I enjoy the most, and that is kit bashing. Creation of a more individual narrative to figures and sets to be able to tell stories, whether that's a model for an RPG character to let you do the small little skirmishes that you get involved with on a tabletop or in a dungeon, towards having character figures for your larger armies that you're going to see on the table, where you can have something then that's truly individual to your army and truly individual to yourself, that nobody else is going to be able to put on the table itself. One of the people who has been really forthcoming with great advice is Jordan over at Jordan Sorcerer. And it's because of the good advice he's been giving me that I wanted to do this inaugural build for something for one of the projects that he's been working on as part of his channel. So for today's Kit Bash, the inaugural one, we're going to go into the Empire of the Old World, and more specifically to the city of Marienburg. And we're going to have a look at putting together some figures for some mercenary guys for a Marienburg themed armor. Within Jordan's project, he's been talking about how he wanted to put together his army based on a lot of the old Hammer figures. But he did say that within it he wanted to, or he was open to the fact that the models within the army would come from a lot of different time periods in GW's catalogue. As such, with a project I've been working on myself, I've been left over with some, quite a number of bits from a couple of the random kits that I've been using for that project, which I'll introduce you to later on in later videos on this channel. The two kits that we're going to be dealing with mostly with today are, one is probably one of the best kits that I think about in terms of GW outputs in the last couple of years, and that's a Citizen Sigmar 3 Guild steel helms, which I think are just awesome character for human figures, especially within the torso and the legs themselves, with addition of some older parts which they quite easily adapt to, can really give still an old school feel to the figures themselves. Now what I want as well is a bit of flamboyance in the clothing as well, and we all see that. So, like, a lot of the older school miniatures had the large puffy shoulders and puffy legs to them. The old more Germanic type of uniforms, and one of the kits that's going to hit that is going to be the Blood Bowl kit for the nobles, which we're going to take some bits and pieces from to just have a slightly difference within the army itself. Now, the choice is that with the force is going to be a mercenary force itself. So, as such, it probably doesn't mean that there has to be a complete uniform look in the models themselves. They don't have to have a set uniform to them. So, as such, as long as they all sort of tie into each other a little bit, there's maybe a common aesthetic between them all, is going to work well in terms of selling the aesthetic of the unit. And as such, what I'm going to do is probably use the breastplates and the upper torsos from the Steel Helms kit, so they all seem to marry together with the upper torsos. Now, in the video, I'm going to concentrate on 3 builds. I'm going to do 2, which are going to use the standard legs and torsos from the Steel Helm kit, and then we'll come and have a cracker one where we're making use of the Blood Bowl bits as well. So we're going to start off with the Steel Helms. So it's just an easy case of following the instructions within the set, finding the poses that you want to use and cutting the 3 bits off. Now, these ones, we all know that GW have been a bit a bit specialised in terms of their kits, about how they go together, especially things like push fit kits where you can get half a hand on one bit of the sprue, etc. But these ones are quite standard, quite easy to push together kits themselves, just 3 bits, 2 bits for the lower legs and 1 bit for the torso. So it's easy enough just to get the 3 bits, break out our sprue goo and put them together, and easily enough we've got the basis for our model straight away. The one thing that we're going to, or the one thing I did notice when putting these guys together, is that the neck joint for the heads, there's quite a pronounced dish or divot in the neck joint, which suits up with the ball joint that comes on the bottom of the heads that you get in the Steel Helm kit. Now, when looking at some older heads, a lot of the times that joint is not as pronounced as it is in these newer figures with the older kits that we want to use for some of the head swaps. So there's a couple of ways we could get round. First of all, we could always use some kind of green stuff and actually fill in the recess itself, build it up a little bit. We could use a sprue goo to fill it up over a couple of layers of putting the sprue goo into the joints themselves. But we've got the heads on the sprue itself, so what I thought we might do with this one is just easy enough, just get the head and cut it off at the neck joint, and then just put the bottom half of the ball joint in the socket where it's supposed to be. It's going to have the effect of, that the neck joint is going to look as it should do, as it's designed. So it's going to look nice and clean. And plus the fact that when we've got them in, a pass of the old sprue goo on top of the neck joint itself is going to help with the adhesion of whatever head that we're going to choose to put on these guys down the line. So it's easy enough with these 2 models to get to the point where we've got the full torso and legs ready to go for the next stage. So let's have a look about what we're going to do with the combination of the Blood Bowl model. So with the Blood Bowl model, what I want to make use of is I want to make use of the legs on this model because it's got the, you know, the flamboyant trousers that are on there. So the first thing is it's going to have to try and remove the top of the torso, because although we could probably use it in terms of just putting an arm swaps and head swaps on it, because it's designed for Blood Bowl, the aesthetic of the armour that's there isn't really in keeping with the rest of the unit, and it is going to stand out quite a lot. So once we've got that clipped off, we then go to the steel helms kit and do the same with the steel helm bodies as well. Just remove the legs just so we're left with the upper torso. Now, it's always a good idea to, when you're making cuts like this, is to have an idea about where you're going to make the cut. So on both of them, there's the pronounced line where the belts are going around the waist. So what I did is made sure that on both cuts, I left the belt line in situ when going through with me cutters, because I'm going to refine it and cut it back down again. First off, using a razor saw to get through the majority of the material, and then we're going to clean it up with a hobby knife just to make sure that we can get a good enough connection between the two sections. So once we're clear and happy with the bits that we've got, we then just offer them up together and see what other refinements we have to make. With the kit, there is a partial loincloth that sits on the Steel Helms model, which was going to, you know, not work really with the lower torso and the legs of the model itself. So that had to come off. You know, maybe I'll reintroduce it a little bit later on. But the models themselves, because they're from the same sort of era as GW, with a little bit of finessing, a little bit of slight adaptation in terms of where, you know, you move and where they make the join, they do tend to marry up quite well, and that way then you're left with again the torso and legs of another model ready to go. Again, just like with the models that we used from the Steel Helms kit, we're going to fill in that dish of the neck joint in exactly the same manner as we did with the other kits. And the other thing that we're going to take advantage of at this point is the effectiveness of the sprue goo. Now, sprue goo itself, because it's the melted plastic in the glue, can be used as a great gap filler within putting kits together. So when you've got little bits and pieces that you're trying to get filled up without, you know, have to go old school way, would we go down the route of milliput or green stuff, etc., and put them in and sort of, like, you know, flatten them out. But with the sprue goo itself, you can just load the nib and put it straight into the joint and let it flow in and just build it up over a couple of sessions, and then it's just going to eventually, it's just going to be rock solid. And because you've filled the joint, you know, you're going to make a really solid connection between any parts that you're trying to get together or try to put together. So it's at this point really that we've got our 3 bodies and 3 torsos. So now we're going to have a look at the probably what is the easiest part of this section is now to give them their old school character by introducing a few bits from other bits of kits that we've got lying around in the bits box. Now I'm going to have a look first off on the model that I've used with the Blood Bowl legs and torso, because I think this is the most characterful of the 3 models that we're working with here, and is going to give a better look at, you know, how these kits can be transformed to give themselves a bit more of an old school feel when working with them. So let's put our bits together. So I'm going to raid through and try and remember where all these bits are from. Now for this guy, I wanted to be a standard bearer. So the first arm is going to be from, I believe, the Free Guild Command Kit. Again, one of the Cities of Sigmar range. With some bits and pieces from the Blood Bowl sprue in terms of the iconography that's going to go on them themselves. The other arm is, I believe, taken from a greatsword model kit, and I've just obviously just removed the sword itself because I want this to be the shield arm, and the shield arm itself is again coming from one of the old I want to say militia kits from the old Cities of Sigmar range, but again you're going to be able to tell me otherwise, and hopefully by the time the video goes up I'm going to have pinpointed where all the bits of the kit come from. And then because I want to make sure that this guy is armed as he should be, it's going to be the case of then we're going to use a pair of swords that I believe are from the Pistoleres sprue itself. Now, the one thing I wanted to be aware of is the head swap that I'm going to go with this model. Now, although the torso and the breastplate is going to be one of the things that we're going to look for in terms of giving a unifying factor, I also wanted to, for the majority of these guys, have a uniform look in the terms of their headwear itself. Now, one of the models that I've always liked the look of in terms of the headwear itself is the Pistoleres. By looking at one of the old books in my collection, the Empire Uniforms collection, and looking through the Middenheim section and Midland section, I did see that. So one of the images that I was going to take as one of the reference pieces, that the person depicted did seem to have a similar helmet to the ones from the Pistoleres set. So that gave me all the reason I need to be able to take these guys out and use those heads as the heads for the units as I put them together. So it's just a case of just slowly piecing together the model itself, and making any kind of secondary changes and nipping and clipping various bits and pieces off just to make sure that everything's going to sit in place for you, namely mostly at the head joints with the nub of the neck that we had used, just to shave a little bit more off that, just to give it the ability of the heads that we're using to sit in a more natural direction itself. And it's a slow but sure little build up, and just making sure everything pieces together as you want it. Once you've finished putting the kit together, you can always go back and, like we said, use the sprue glue to its advantage about filling any minor gaps that you might have in there, etc, etc. But eventually you're going to work out that your kit is going to come together in a place where you're happy with how it's turned out. Now, one of the final things I always do when I'm building these figures themselves is I'm not entirely happy until I see it as one unified figure, because you can tell where various bits comes from, the differences in the colour of the plastic, etc, and where it comes from. It's not until it's all like one uniform colour that you really see how it works together. So although I've shown you the basis of 3 guys in this video, I actually created a unit of 5. A few character figures and a few more run-of-the-mill swordsmen that Jordan can use for bulking out whatever he wants to bulk out in terms of the unit he's going to use. And with these, it got to the point where I finalised them up with spray from Colourforge, the Pete the Wargamer's colour, and it just gave them the ability to me to see the models in their final state, so to speak. I mean, I'm not going to paint these guys up before I give them to Jordan, because Jordan wants to paint the army himself, which is understandable, and to be able to have the army look as if it's going to fit with the rest of the models he's getting painted up. And I can only hope that these guys serve as maybe a bit of a push, or a bit of an enthusiasm jogger to get the project on the go, because I know he has been collecting these models for a number of years, and it'd be nice to be able to see him, get him on the table. So that was it. Our first little build for, from Dungeons to Starships, the rebirth, the Phoenix. And I hope you have taken some little bits of little tips and tricks about, combining into like various models together. I have got a couple of ideas for some future builds, but I want this channel to be as interactive with you, the viewers, as possible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw the options open to you. What would you like to see built? Is there a unit that you would like to get on the table but don't know where to start about getting bits together and putting the actual unit together? Do you want an individual command figure or an individual character, like we said at the start of the video, for your games on the tabletop? Or is there a game itself that you're struggling to have an idea about where to, piece models together? I mean, because, you've got a lot of games that, come to market now that are these miniature agnostic games, and one of those ones we will feature quite soon on the channel itself. So I'd like your input. I'd like to see where you would like this this channel to go, and what would be the involvement and the content for this channel as well. Now I'm going to try and steer away for the majority of doing anything to do with 40k as the primary builds on this channel, because there are a lot more wonderful kit bashers out there who do some absolutely brilliant work in terms of that genre and that side of the hobby. And so basically anything I've got is just going to be repeating what those guys are doing with their outstanding work anyway. So, if we could do it so that we could have a bit more of a standard fantasy bent on here, or be looking at those independent games, it's probably where, I'm going to enjoy most, trying to piece together these models for us and see what we come up with. What I would say is, if you put your suggestions in, and what I would do is pull a random model to build, maybe once a month, etc., etc. And then what I would do is, then if you were to join to the Patreon for the channel as well, then that model would be a gift to you from me to say thank you very much for supporting the channel. So the channel itself, the Patreon, it's set at the minimum value that Patreon can be, because I don't like sort of asking people for bits and pieces again, but your support is going to help with buying kits, etc., etc., and extra tools and better equipment to make the channel better. And everything that will be made of Patreon will either be put directly back into the channel, or would be used as some kind of support for other groups, especially through my Grey Mountain campaign that I started this year. And if you want to have a look at that, there's other videos on the channel for you to look back over and have a look about what you think about that itself. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope there is a lot more to come from the new and improved from Dungeons to Starships. So I'll see you next time around.